If you want to start a spirited debate in this country, forget hockey or pineapple on pizza. Just bring up the federal government's gun control plans. It's a real barn burner. Since May of 2020, Ottawa has been on a tear, banning thousands of firearms they've labeled assault-style weapons. The logic, they say, is that these are weapons of war that have no place in our communities. Fair enough, sounds simple. But then came the plan to buy them all back from their legal owners, and that's where the math starts to get a little fuzzy for a lot of people. It's one thing to make a promise during an election. It's another thing entirely to get out the national checkbook and make it happen. The bill for this buyback program is staggering, and not in a good way. The parliamentary budget officer, the independent bean counter who tells politicians what their bright ideas will actually cost us, pegged the price tag at up to $756 million. And hold on to your hats, because that's just for the compensation. It doesn't even include the administrative costs of running the whole show. We're talking about the price of a few new hospitals, or a whole lot of school lunches. As of late 2024, we'd already spent tens of millions on setting it all up, but hadn't collected a single firearm from an individual. It's like paying a moving company before they've even packed a box. So, we're spending a king's ransom, but is it actually making anyone safer? That's the multi-million-dollar question, isn't it? Critics, and this includes some surprising folks like the National Police Federation, the union representing the RCMP, our Mounties, argue that this whole exercise misses the point. They say the real problem isn't the farmer in Saskatchewan with a legally registered rifle locked in a safe. It's the smuggled handguns coming across the border to fuel gang violence in our cities. It feels like we're spending a fortune to tear down a garden shed while the house next door is on fire. The focus is on law-abiding citizens, not the criminals who were never going to follow the rules anyway. The logistical nightmare of actually collecting these firearms is another story altogether. It turns out, rounding up hundreds of thousands of guns is a bit more complicated than picking up the recycling. The government tried to get Canada Post to help, but they politely said no thanks, citing safety concerns for their mail carriers. Can you blame them? So now, the plan involves hiring public servants to do the job. You've got a massive, expensive program that police unions question, logistics companies won't touch, and that targets people who passed a background check to get their property in the first place. It's a plan, all right, but a good one? The jury is still very much out. For a huge number of Canadians, owning a firearm has nothing to do with crime and everything to do with tradition, sport, or history. We're talking about hunters who have passed down skills and firearms through generations, providing food for their families. We're talking about sport shooters who compete at an Olympic level, honing their discipline and focus with incredible precision. And we're talking about collectors who are passionate historians preserving pieces of our past. These are the people who have found themselves directly in the crosshairs of the new bans, and to say they're unhappy is the understatement of the year. They feel like they've been painted as the problem, when all they've ever done is follow the law to a T. Imagine spending your life perfecting a sport, investing thousands of dollars in equipment and training, only to be told overnight that your gear is now illegal. That's the reality for many competitive shooters in Canada. Their sport, which demands more safety and responsibility than most, is suddenly on the verge of extinction. The same goes for hunters who use certain types of semi-automatic rifles, not because they're weapons of war, but because they are practical and effective tools for the job. These bans don't just take away property, they threaten to erase entire subcultures and recreational communities that are a core part of the Canadian identity for many, particularly in rural and northern regions. Then there's the simple, gut-wrenching feeling of having your property taken away. These aren't cheap items. Many of these firearms are valuable assets, worth thousands of dollars that people saved up to buy legally. The government's buyback program is seen by many not as fair compensation, but as a forced seizure of private property at a fraction of its true value. This has created a deep sense of betrayal and a massive erosion of trust. When you play by the rules your whole life, pass the courses, get the license, store everything safely, and the government changes those rules and criminalizes you retroactively, it's hard not to feel like you've been had. This isn't just about a few disgruntled hobbyists, it's about a fundamental disagreement over what it means to be a responsible citizen. These gun owners see themselves as some of the most vetted and law-abiding people in the country. They've passed background checks that look into their entire life history. To them, being targeted like this feels illogical and deeply unfair. They see criminals on the street getting bail while their own property is being confiscated, This isn't just a policy debate for them, it's personal. It's an attack on their way of life, their traditions, and their trust in the very system they've always respected. If you're going to pass sweeping laws that affect hundreds of thousands of people, you'd think step one would be to make those laws clear and easy to understand. Well, you'd be wrong. One of the biggest complaints about the new gun control measures is that they are a tangled, confusing mess. The list of banned firearms seems arbitrary to many owners, with some models being prohibited while nearly identical ones remain legal. It's created a situation where even the most diligent, law-abiding person has a hard time figuring out if they're on the right side of the law. It's like being told you can't drive a blue Honda Civic, but a blue Toyota Corolla is perfectly fine. The process for classifying firearms is at the heart of this confusion. Before, there was a more predictable system. Now the government can ban firearms by name and decree that all variants, present and future, are also illegal. What's a variant? Good question. The definition is so vague that owners are left guessing, and retailers are terrified of accidentally selling something that could land them in hot water. This uncertainty is a nightmare. People are afraid to take their firearms to the range, to go hunting, or even to transport them for repairs because they're not sure if the rules have changed again overnight. It's a classic case of a solution creating a whole new set of problems, and it doesn't stop with rifles. The national freeze on the sale and transfer of handguns, part of Bill C-21, has created its own brand of chaos. While it was meant to cap the number of handguns in the country, it's thrown a wrench into things like inheritance. Imagine your father, a lifelong sport shooter, passes away and leaves you his prized collection of target pistols. In the past, you could inherit them if you had the proper license. Now, in many cases, that's impossible. The only option is to have them destroyed. It's a policy that erases history and sentimental value for no clear public safety gain, as these firearms would be going to another licensed, vetted individual. This constant state of confusion does more than just frustrate people, it breeds contempt for the law itself. When rules seem nonsensical and are applied inconsistently, people lose respect for the system. Gun owners are asking for clarity, predictability, and common sense. They want a system based on function and risk, not on what a firearm looks like or what it's called. Instead, they feel like they're navigating a maze designed by someone who has never set foot in it. The government says these measures are about public safety, but it's hard to feel safer when no one, not even the experts, seems to know exactly what the rules are. Canadians might be known for being polite, but when you poke a bear, you get the claws. And right now, a lot of gun owners feel like they've been poked one too many times. They aren't taking this sitting down. Across the country, a grassroots movement has swelled up to challenge these laws. People are getting organized, they're getting loud, and they're making it clear they won't be ignored. This isn't some fringe group, it's a broad coalition of everyday people. Teachers, mechanics, doctors, and farmers who believe the government has gone too far. They're channeling their frustration into action, determined to make their voices heard in the halls of power. One of the most powerful things they're doing is organizing. Groups like the Canadian Coalition for Firearm Rights and the Canadian Shooting Sports Association have seen their memberships explode. These organizations are leading the charge, providing resources, educating the public, and most importantly, launching legal challenges against the bans. They're crowdfunding massive legal funds to take the government to court, arguing that these measures are an overreach of authority and a violation of rights. This is the modern Canadian way of doing battle, not with pitchforks, but with lawyers and legal briefs, fighting for their cause within the system they feel has wronged them. Beyond the big legal fights, people are taking the battle to their own backyards. They are writing letters, sending emails, and making phone calls to their members of parliament, demanding to know why their rights and property are being targeted. Town hall meetings have become ground zero for these debates, with constituents respectfully but firmly challenging politicians to justify these policies. They are signing petitions by the hundreds of thousands and supporting political parties and candidates like the Conservative Party, who have promised to roll back the more controversial measures. This is democracy in action, messy, loud, but absolutely essential. It's a reminder to Ottawa that they work for the people, not the other way around. Ultimately, what this community wants is a shift in focus. They argue that if the government is serious about public safety, it needs to tackle the real sources of crime. That means securing our borders to stop the flow of illegal guns from the United States, investing in mental health resources, and funding community programs that offer young people alternatives to a life of crime. The debate over gun control in Canada is about more than just guns. It's about what kind of country we want to be, one that creates complex, expensive laws to target law-abiding citizens, or one that rolls up its sleeves and does the hard work of addressing the root causes of violence. That's the choice, and a lot of Canadians are making their answer heard loud and clear. If you found this video insightful, don't forget to subscribe, like, and follow for more. And please leave your thoughts in the comments below. We want to hear what you think.